weak, pathetic. The entire world knows what a loser he is. Donald Trump all alone in Mar-a-Lago. He's not even making social media posts right now. He hasn't made a post in 48 hours or so, but he is sending emails like this to his supporters. I subscribe so you don't have to. I'm all alone and in the dark, but I know you're still by my side. Some people are saying, this is sad. I'm sitting here all alone in the war room fighting for you. The rest of the staff went home hours ago. It's just me, one dying laptop, and the 48-hour countdown clock on my urgent end of the year deadline. Can you please rush $47 right now to me in the next 30 minutes? Do it for America and show them MAGA is strong. Thank you. This could be our last chance. It's an actual email sent from his official account begging for money. There's so much going on in the world right now that requires steady leadership. And he's sending emails saying, I'm all alone and in the dark. Our enemies are laughing at us. Our former allies are absolutely horrified. Just think about what's taking place around the world. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense yesterday reported that between 6 a.m. on Monday and 6 a.m. on Tuesday, 130 Chinese military aircraft, 14 naval vessels, and 8 Coast Guard vessels were detected operating around the island of Taiwan, with 90 out of 130 aircraft crossing the median line and entering Taiwan's northern, central, southwestern air defense identification zone. You see right here a Chinese Coast Guard patrol gunboat being intercepted by a Taiwanese Coast Guard earlier in the day. This is as close as we've come, folks, to a world war since World War I and World War II. While that's taking place, you have news breaking that the United States may have struck inside Venezuela a month ago, but no news for the American people. We never learned about this. Donald Trump on Friday or sometime last week, he did mention on some obscure right-wing podcast or radio show that, oh, yeah, we struck some area inside Venezuela. Well, yesterday we're learning what that may be referring to, and yet you still have those inside our national intelligence pointing fingers at each other and saying, you're lying. So CNN reported that the CIA carried out a drone strike on a small port facility on the Venezuelan coast. The CIA carried out a drone strike earlier this month on a port facility on the coast of Venezuela. The drone strike, the details of which were not previously reported, targeted a remote dock on the Venezuelan coast that the U.S. government believed was being used by the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua to store drugs and move them onto boats for onward shipping, the sources said. No one was present at the facility at the time it was struck, so there were no casualties, according to the sources. And then you have different branches of the military pointing fingers at each other and saying, this was operated by special forces, and then special forces saying we had nothing to do with it. It was just drones and we were not even aware of it. I think no one in the armed services want to even be associated with this. Just take a look how they're talking about the United States right now in Japan, for example. This is an article from the Japan Times. Asia adrift, Asia all alone. Why has Donald Trump wantonly undermined the United States' strong and solidly constructed position in Asia, one based on loyal allies like Japan, Australia, and South Korea, with a budding strategic partnership with India recently thrown into the mix? Part of the explanation must lie in his America First isolationism, which assigns little value to alliance and permits even fundamental security issues to be viewed through the lens of mercantile bargaining. You almost got it, Japan Times. Donald Trump and Marco Rubio see the world as having 3 poles in a multipolar structure. The U.S. gets all of the Western Hemisphere, and every other country is a vassal state of the U.S. That's why Donald Trump says Greenland belongs to the U.S. Canada should be the 51st state. He can bomb in Mexico if he wants. Central America, South America belongs to the U.S. Redo the Monroe Doctrine, but on nuclear steroids. That's Donald Trump's view of the Western Hemisphere. He believes that Putin should control all of Europe after taking over Ukraine, get all of Europe. That belongs to Russia. And then Donald Trump believes that Asia belongs to Xi Jinping in China. So Trump's willing to throw away his alliances with South Korea and Japan and Australia and any other country that's in the region. Now, there may be those within our intelligence agencies and those within the State Department and those within the Defense Department who are doing their best to try to hold on to some semblance of these relationships. But it's important to note that that's how Donald Trump ultimately sees the world. Now, you can see how he sees the world during his meeting or whatever you want to call it with Zelensky over the weekend and then Netanyahu yesterday. I mean, he does this meeting with Zelensky where he basically parrots Putin talking points and says, look, Putin wants to just take over Ukraine to be nice to you. Putin's looking to help you, Ukraine, right? I think that Putin really wants to make Ukraine better. That's what Donald Trump said in front of Zelensky. It was horrific. And Zelensky was looking at him like, are you absolutely crazy? Zelensky then went on Fox, state regime media, knowing that he needs to speak to that audience, and said, no, there's no way that Putin wants to help Ukraine. Listen to what Putin and Lavrov and Dmitriev and Yushakov and Peskov, what they're all saying. They're all saying that they're not ending what they've referred to as the special operation. They call Ukraine an artificial state. They say it shouldn't exist. It belongs to Russia. They've never once made any indication of wanting peace. And then yesterday morning, they came up with the pretext to try to kill Zelensky and attack government buildings. And they said in the morning, and I believe this was coordinated between Putin and Donald Trump, and I believe Trump tried to threaten Zelensky with this during their meeting at Mar-a-Lago, although that won't be reported. That's clearly what I believe went down. Because what else was Donald Trump and Putin talking about yesterday when they were speaking for hours and hours? I believe this was coordinated yesterday morning. Putin says, Zelensky was trying to kill me last night. He sent 90 drones to come after my residence, but we were able to stop it. And now we can't negotiate anymore with Ukraine because he tried to kill me. Now we need to attack Ukrainian government buildings, and we need to pick up our invasion of Zaporizhia, and we need to kill Zelensky. We need to go after all of the government buildings. That's why we need to do it. We can't negotiate with terrorists. This is a terrorist act. Right? The same way Donald Trump refers to the fishing boats as narco-terrorists. Narco-terrorists. Putin uses the same language in order to use it as pretext to engage in the means that he ultimately wants. So you have his meeting with Zelensky, and then yesterday he meets with Netanyahu. Is there anything more deranged than that? Two people who have been some of the most destructive forces in modern times, or perhaps any times, in my opinion. And you had Donald Trump standing next to Netanyahu, and Trump's like, I'm a wartime president, right? Aren't I a wartime president, Netanyahu? Here, play this clip.
For your support. It's meant from the heart.
Thank you. You know, as I said outside, he's been a wartime prime minister, and we were, well, I guess I could say I was a wartime president in more places than just Israel, if you think about it. But Israel was a big factor, and we're with you.
And then you have Donald Trump being asked, well, are you concerned that Israel is not implementing your quote unquote peace deal and not moving forward to phase 2? And Donald Trump's like, I'm not concerned with anything that Israel does. They can just do whatever they want to do. Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, are you concerned that Israel is not moving quickly enough to phase 2 of the peace plan?
Well, I'm not concerned about anything that Israel's doing. I'm concerned about what other people are doing or maybe aren't doing. But I'm not concerned. They've lived up to the plan. They're strong. They're solid. And sometimes they don't understand when somebody violates something that you want to give them a second chance. Well, we'll give them a couple of second chances. But no, Israel's lived up to the plan 100%. Don't forget, we made the plan possible by taking out Iran.
Then Donald Trump talks about how Trump says he spoke with the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, and he said that Herzog has told him that he would pardon Netanyahu. And then Herzog had to respond and say, I've never had a conversation with Donald Trump about this. I've never spoken to him. He's lying. And here's what Donald Trump says that Herzog told him. And the president of Israel is the one who has the pardon power. Here's what Donald Trump said. Here, play this clip.
A pardon? I think he will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way. Mr. President, can't do better than that, right?
Now, one of the things that Donald Trump wanted to talk about also was the ballroom. Here, play this clip.
Well, I'm doing a magnificent, big, beautiful ballroom that the country has wanted, the White House has wanted for 150 years. It's a massive job, and it's a tiny fraction of that number. And we're under budget and ahead of schedule. Now, it's bigger than I told you. After realizing we're going to do the inauguration in that building, it's got all bulletproof glass. It's got all they call it drone-free roof. So drones won't touch it.
I mean, utterly deranged behavior. Deranged behavior right there. Should also be noted yesterday that Trump's DOJ had an indictment against a guy by the name of Carlitos Richard Parias, dismissed by a federal judge. The Trump regime did not turn over body cam and discovery, and the federal judge was like, this case needs to go. Just take a listen to this, how a TikToker who was shot by ICE has his indictment thrown out. So basically, every single criminal case, as Aaron Reichlin-Melnick explains, every single criminal case brought by the DHS against people they shot has been dismissed and is now falling apart. Play this clip.
A federal judge has dismissed an indictment against a TikTok streamer shot by a federal agent in October in South LA. That judge says Carlitos Ricardo Parias, who goes by Richard LA, was denied access to his lawyers while being held in detention. The judge also cites the government's failure to meet discovery deadlines, including timely release of body camera footage of the shooting. Agents accused Parias of ramming his car into their vehicles after they boxed him in, but video raises some serious questions about those claims. His trial was set to begin on Tuesday. The judge dismissed the indictment with prejudice, meaning prosecutors cannot refile the same charges again, but Parias could remain in detention as his immigration case moves forward.
And while all of this is going on, the Trump regime is their latest distraction is attacking the Somalian community in Minnesota and attacking Governor Walz in Minnesota and saying all Somalians are bad and Governor Walz is complicit in all of this fraud that's taking place in Minnesota. I'm sure by now this story has reached you. So rather than me do a worse job at it than someone who I think did an incredible job, this is a TikToker. Priya Existing is the name of the TikTok account. Go follow her. She's really good. There's some really good analysis, but her analysis here really appealed to me. And I thought she broke down the situation in a way that if anybody asks you about it, I think this gives a good explanation of what's taking place. Here, play this clip.
So I'm getting a lot of messages about all of this alleged fraud that's happening in Minnesota because it's my home state. The first message I got was from a friend of mine asking me if I'd seen that video that wackadoodle Nick Shirley did going to that quick learning center or whatever it's called. And I'm not saying there's not fraud going on in Minnesota. I'm just saying that some of it seems to be from Nick Shirley. So he goes to this learning center. It's a daycare that has taken millions of dollars. He's knocking. Nobody's coming to the door. But it would seem that he's actually at the back door. So here he is at the front door. It's a restaurant called Abdi's Kitchen. That learning center shut down due to multiple violations, none of which I don't believe had to do with fraud. But he doesn't tell his followers that it's actually a restaurant. So I got a bunch of messages about that. And then I got this comment on Instagram, which is a bad faith question. This guy is MAGA. And there has been a huge MAGA push to think about Somali people as fraudsters. Usually what they're referencing is the Feeding Our Future case. And yes, a lot of Somali people were implicated in that case. But what they conveniently leave out is this woman Amy Bach. In 2016, she founded the nonprofit Feeding Our Future. And in 2020 is when the fraud began. This was at the beginning of the pandemic. This was during DJT's first term. He completely mishandled the pandemic to the point that he loosened oversight on these kinds of programs, allowing claims to get through unverified. And Feeding Our Future claimed that they were giving thousands of meals to children, and they never did. They pocketed that money to the tune of $240 million. In 2022, during Biden's term, Biden's FBI raided the organization, and the organization shut down. There were 78 suspects, Amy Bach, and all of her employees. In March of 2025, 40 of those people, including Amy Bach, were either found guilty or pled guilty. Merrick Garland called it the largest pandemic relief fraud scheme that there ever was. And Biden's administration shut it down. So most of the 78 people who were indicted and the 40 people who were found or pled guilty were Somali, but they were also Bach's employees. She was described as an authoritarian who silenced dissent within her ranks, discouraged scrutiny from state regulators, and cut off people who refused to comply with fudging the numbers. She is the person who created all of this. And now this has become a huge right-wing talking point because of racism and xenophobia. But no one ever mentions her, the person who created it. Now, there's a ton more to the story, but I know that this guy asked me to cover this, to prove that Somali people are bad, because that's what this admin wants you to think. The reality is every community has bad actors. That is not an indication of a community as a whole. Unless maybe we're talking about some white women like Amy Bach, who actually was only caught because of Somali whistleblowers. They were the ones who dissented, the ones that Bach iced out. Anyway, too long didn't read. There are bad actors everywhere, but in this case, it was a white woman.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. We appreciate all your support as always.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.